there are like journal prompts out there that will help you discover some things, but it's very surface level. Hey, welcome to the channel. Today I am sharing journal prompts that will help you do some self-discovery and help you find what brings you happiness, what brings you contentment, and what brings you joy. Okay, super excited about this. Let me know below if you are a fan of journaling. When I first got saved, one of the things I did was I created a journal where it was like communication between me and God. I would write down my prayers, I would write down my desires, things that were coming up that I needed to deal with, and I would write down what He was showing me. And that has never left. That is something that I still do today. One of the things that I think is huge is doing the inner work with God. As y'all know, for the ones who have been around for a minute, that is what this channel is all about. Having the faith and doing the inner work with God. It's necessary, okay? So let's get right in. When it comes to happiness versus contentment versus joy, I got this inspiration because my pastor was teaching, and one of the things he said is that happiness is from your desires being received. So happiness only comes when your desires are actually received. It's more of a short-term thing. Joy is founded on the Lord. It's a long-term thing. In my own life, I have been reflecting on Galatians 5:22 through I think like 26, and it talks about the fruit of the Spirit, but it also says that those who love Jesus have crucified their flesh. They have crucified their passion and desire. So I have been really reflecting on that. What areas am I struggling to have the fruit of the Spirit because of desires and passion? So that is what this journal prompt is for. It's really to discover what are the things that bring contentment right now. What are the desires that will bring you happiness, but that you need to pray, leave those with God, and trust the process. And then what are the things that bring you joy, okay? Because if you're always looking at your desire or the next goal to be met, the next house, the next car, the next job, the next position, if you're always living in that type of mindset, you will find that you can't enjoy right now. You're always moving on to the next thing, and that is something that I have really been observing with myself. I know I'm pretty ambitious in the sense of I have a big vision for my life. I have big goals. I always have. I'm more of a goal oriented, planning all the steps out. That is totally me. But I am learning with building a business to really flow with God and do the process. I've been in situations where when you get things too soon and you're not ready, or like you're not around the right people, you're not solid in yourself, in your own identity, things end up tumbling down. It's a hot mess. So I am being like very intentional, practicing that self-awareness, practicing being very vulnerable and honest with God on where I'm at, and just looking at myself, like checking myself, like, no, you can't do that. Nope, that's gonna lead that way. So yeah, when I was coming to do this prompt, I really needed to break down the difference between happiness, contentment, and joy. So let's start with the definitions. Happiness is short-term. It's an emotional response to something. It's a result from success or attaining something. It's when your desires are gratified, okay? Contentment, on the other hand, is the state of being. It's long-term, a deeper feeling of satisfaction and gratitude. having one's desires bound by what one has. Okay, and then this part stuck out to me. It was talking to me, okay? It said, contentment is not being disturbed by the desire of anything more. Satisfied, pleased. So that's contentment, y'all. So joy, I wanted the biblical definition because it says the joy of the Lord is our strength, okay? So joy is feeling of good pleasure and happiness that's dependent on who Jesus is rather than on who we are or what is happening. Gladness in the Lord. It is rejoicing, okay? So prompt number 1, okay? And just a little disclaimer, I should say, when it comes to doing inner work or journaling, there are like journal prompts out there that will help you discover some things, but it's very surface level. So I always encourage you to dig, like keep digging, because after you get insight on something, you need to know how is that showing up in your life, or what is not showing up in your life. What am I missing out on? And then you also need a plan, like how are you going to apply this to your life? How are you going to move forward after finding this information? Without that, it's very surface level. So journal prompt number 1 is, what makes you happy, content, and joyful? So what I did is I created a chart. I broke down happiness and I wrote down all the things that make me happy, the desires that I want, right? The things that I don't have right now necessarily, but the things that bring me happiness. Content, when it came to content, I thought of like bare minimum, things that bring abundance to my life, but it's the bare minimum, okay? Like God doesn't have to do nothing else type of thing. I wrote down all of the things that bring me content. So for me, that was slow mornings, coffee, spending time with my family, okay? For joy, it was things like quiet time with God, actually hearing the voice of God, worship. Those things bring me joy. Really reflect on what brings you happy. When are you the most happy? When are you most content? What things bring contentment in your life? What makes you joyful? The second prompt, how does striving for happiness or being led by desires cloud your contentment and joy? So as believers, because I've been meditating on that scripture, we have to crucify our flesh. We can't be led by our passions and desires. God will give us the desires of our hearts as like we're seeking Him first, we're abiding in Him, we have that relationship with Him. It's not just all about, getting something. We have a genuine relationship with Him. We're lined up with His character. We're lined up with Him. He will then give us the desires, okay? But there may be a process. And if something is not in the will of God, we have to be okay with the no, okay? So we can't just be being led by our desires or our passions. So how does striving for happiness or being led by desires cloud your contentment and joy? Because if you are striving for happiness, when you are being led by desires, that is exactly what it does. It clouds your joy and contentment. This prompt will help you see like what to look out for. These are like the signs that you are allowing your desires to lead you, striving for happiness instead of being content and striving for the things that God has for you right now in this season. So some of the things that I wrote is, I lose clarity and peace of mind. That is a sign for myself that like, no sis, you are striving for your happiness, you're striving for desires, but there's baby steps. Focus on the baby steps, focus on what God is telling you to do right now. don't jump the gun, because then you end up like unclear, you don't have a peace of mind. And then the other one is like frustration. Okay, now that we know the signs that we are letting desires lead us, we now have to know, how does contentment and joy affect our lives? Like, what does that bring to us? What is the benefit? The third prompt is, how does focusing on contentment and joy affect your life? The main thing is gratitude. There's a sense of gratitude when you are content with what you have and you're joyful. You just have more gratitude. You feel more abundant because you're looking at what you have. You're not looking at what you are lacking. So that was a huge thing for me, is gratitude. It comes with gratitude. Okay, so we have the signs to look out for, that we are letting our desires, or we're striving for happiness instead of God's wills. And then we also have the benefits of being content and having joy, okay? Because you have to be looking out for the red flags, and then you also have to be looking out for the benefits. The fourth prompt is, what can you do to stay content and in joy? Now that you have made your chart, you know, like, yes, this is where I want to be. This is the happy column. This is where I want to be. Content. This is where I'm at right now, and the things that bring me that abundant feeling, okay? This is what I'm working with right now, and it makes me feel content. It makes me feel grateful. And then joy. These are the things that like are the foundation, okay? These are the things that I need to consistently do. You have to make a plan, like, okay, well, how do I do more of these things? What brings me content, y'all, is being like clutter free and having a sense of order or organization. When things are cluttered, my mind is cluttered, and I just, no, it's a no for me. So one of the things that bring me contentment is being like organized, having a plan. I don't need the whole year necessarily planned out, but what am I doing today? Okay, so one thing that I could do to stay content and enjoy for me was to plan your day at night. So then when you wake up in the morning, you already know what you're gonna do. And you already feel this like content feeling of like, yes, I know what I'm working on. I know what I have to get done. And it's like this order thing. That's huge for me. So what can you do to stay content and in joy? I hope that these journal prompts really gave you insight on how to dig. Like, it's great to know what things make you happy, what things make you content, what things bring you joy, right? That's great. But how do you apply that to your life? How do you determine when you're going in the wrong direction? How do you determine, like, what's the benefits? Why should I stick to this? How do you make an action plan so that this information that you just got, it doesn't fall on deaf ears? Like, you actually implement it in your life and you know why you need to. So one of the things I do when people start coaching is I get clarity on, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And why do you need to get there? What's at stake if you don't get there? That will help you make sure that you are grasping on and committing to the process, because inner work transformation is very intentional. So in order for you to get like the full benefit of doing journal work prompts and doing the inner work, you have to have full perspective on how things affect your life and how to apply them and get some steps, okay? Like, subscribe, click the bell so you can be notified on when my next video drops. Until next time.